Welcome back, fans and friends, to the Complete Guide to Horror Movies podcast. Today, we are discussing Final Destination Bloodlines, the latest installment in the franchise that has traumatized millions. It's been a lengthy 14-year gap between installments, and all three of us were lucky to attend advanced screenings to bring you this deep dive review. Now, if you do not wish to be spoiled, please head to our channel to watch our spoiler-free review video, where we just give our thoughts on the narrative, the scare factor, basically a condensed version of this episode, but without spoiling any key scenes or character fates itself. If you're happy to hear spoilers, please continue with the rest of this video. Now, I have a lot of overall thoughts about this movie. I think it had some high points. I think it had some low points. There were some really weird parts of this movie that I'm still quite confused by. Also, the death scenes, we're going to talk a lot about those. Overall, though, I'm going to say I was disappointed. And I know that's probably a controversial opinion because I've looked at Reddit, I've looked at Twitter. General consensus seems to be that people love this movie. They think it's their favorite of the franchise. Or if they don't think it's better than the first installment, they think it's the best sequel. And I heavily disagree. But I also think a lot of people might have recency bias. You know, they've just come out of a cinema, so, well, this is the best one yet. And I mean, that same recency or bias might apply to me. What the fuck? Sorry. Yeah, that recency bias might also apply to me, where I might think about this movie in a couple of weeks and be like, oh, it wasn't all that bad. So, yeah, I'm glad we're here to talk about it today. Now, Coop, what are your overall thoughts?
Here we go. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Actually thought it was the best one since the third one. Because again, like we all know, the fourth one is just a joke.
Oh, yeah.
And the fifth one was, it almost felt like they made that just to make up for the one before it.
Yeah.
But it is overall really not that, like the fifth one's really not that great, I don't reckon. But yeah, overall, I had a good time. I thought the deaths were great, cinematography was good. As any sort of big kind of Hollywood movie, you're gonna have some clunky dialogue here and there, but I didn't think it was too bad. The only issues I had with it, and we talk about this a lot in the podcast, is just some logical decision making by the characters. But I was almost like actively trying to be like, no, don't overthink it. You're going to ruin the movie for yourself. Just go along with it. So I'll cover some of those thoughts in the least favorite parts. But overall, I thought it was a fun, enjoyable ride. I think it's a great example of a decent sequel slash reboot, and how to basically just go for it. I don't think that they held back in the way that they approached this movie. I didn't even really have problems with some of the, not really retcons, but some of the introduced lore.
Mm.
I mean, some could say maybe it's a little lazy, but I thought it worked well if you don't overthink it too much. But overall, good experience. I had a good time with it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I hadn't seen any trailers. I went to lengths to, so I had no idea about what the story was going to be, and the fact that there was going to be, again, spoiler. If you're still watching this and you haven't clicked off because you're worried about spoilers, get out. So the fact that there was like the previous experience and them having the vision of their grandmother, and the sort of back and forth between the present time and where it all kicked off for that bloodline. I quite enjoyed that, and
Yeah.
basically went in blind and had a good time with it. So yeah, positive thoughts for the most part.
That's. I'll be honest, I thought you might have hated this movie. So I'm a surprised, but at the same time, we've had things like this before where I think, like, taking it back to Smile 2, where I thought you and BP would like it, and that was the complete opposite. I like your point too about the clunky dialogue. I mentioned this to BP the other day. I rewatched the final Destination, the fourth one, and there's a scene which I don't remember when we covered that episode, but it's when Laurie Milligan, the lead female character, the girlfriend of Nick, the guy that has premonitions, she's talking. They're in the mall, and it's her and Janet. and it's supposed to be like leading up to when she gets crushed in the escalator, and her foot goes in first, followed by her leg, and then everything else
Mhm.
she gets squished. It's all about like her shoelace gets stuck in the elevator. She's like, "Help me, Janet! It's not working." And then they go to a shoe shop, and she's like, "Oh, I know you hate these sneakers, but Nick loves seeing me in sneaks," and it's so fucking funny because it's so out of the blue.
They say I'm getting older, but I still like to party.
Doesn't matter. I didn't buy him for you. I bought him for Nick. He likes me in sneaks.
I didn't detect any level of that type of like cringy dialogue in this one, so I was very happy about that.
Yeah.
But before I go on and on, BP, what are your overall thoughts?
I I liked the movie. I don't think I like it as much as I was sort of hoping going in. That I had goosebumps in the opening titles because I was like, oh my God, this is 14 years since
Mm.
like we were all babies when the last one came out. Um, I really liked the opening. I thought that was like one of the strongest like sort of premonitions we've seen since I reckon maybe three at this point. Um, there, as Coop said, there is clunky dialogue, but it sort of wouldn't be Final Destination if it wasn't without that. It sort of makes it part of it.
Yep.
Some of the deaths were a choice and interesting, and the ending is very questionable. And it's a sort of like a oh brother. I essentially summed this movie up in a sentence saying there was lots of gasps, there was lots of laughs, and there was a lots of cringe.
A poem? How sweet. What poem would that be?
That's how I sort of took this movie as. So I think like they did a good enough job after 14 years, a decent effort, but just some details here and there, and particularly the ending of the movie, I just thought was just unforgivable. I'm pretty
Yes.
harsh on it. Yeah, I mean, it's only been like less than 24 hours like that we're filming this that I've saw this, so I probably need to see it again and just sort of watch it and maybe have a second opinion. But at the moment, I think it's a somewhat return to form. Did they execute it completely? No.
Mm.
But we'll talk about this a bit further.
I already have someone trying to murder me at work. It is the last thing I need when I'm sitting down for an elegant, salty dinner and romantic phone sesh.
In terms of what I liked about this movie, so straight up, I'm just gonna say what we're all thinking. I was so happy when that kid got crushed by the piano.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was waiting for some kind of payoff to happen because they wrote that character to obviously be like a little shit, so you knew something was gonna come. But when he makes it out of the restaurant, and it seems like he was the only survivor, and then boom, it's the piano. Such a Looney Tunes style of death,
Yeah.
but I felt that it worked. Like that type of humor really works in this movie. A lot of people in the cinema went wild when that happened. And in part of that too, the opening premonition, I actually think it's high up there with the plane crash and the log truck. I think this is miles above things like, I'll be honest, I wasn't really a fan of the roller coaster premonition. It's a roller coaster, who cares? Same with the racetrack. The racetrack was awful in the Final Destination. Just a whole bunch of stupid ass deaths. And then the fifth one with the bridge, look, that was above, for me personally, the roller coaster and the fourth one with the racetrack. But
Yeah.
this one with the restaurant, it was such a unique take on it. And I'll admit, I knew that the opening premonition was going to be the type of revolving sky high restaurant, whatever you want to call it. But the way that it happens is really interesting. Like the whole thing revolving around the penny and then the dance floor. Also, just the amount of varied deaths within that scene. It wasn't just, oh, everyone falls out of the tower and dies. There was burning, there was the piano, there was the guy getting like pretty much slammed in half when the elevator went down. And all the characters in that scene as well. Like you got the guy who sounds like SpongeBob doing the elevator attendee. He's like going down or whatever he's doing. And then even having that aspect with William Bloodworth, played by Tony Todd, so his mother being the singer, and it felt like it was right for that time period they were trying to go for, whether it was the 70s or 50s. I couldn't actually work out what decade. But it was really exciting. It was really interesting. And there's a lot of gross out scenes too, like when her ring finger is stuck between the nails and then it essentially degloves her finger before she falls. Ugh, I hate that shit. But that's what Final Destination's all about. So loved the opening premonition. What do you both think about that premonition?
I really liked it. You touched on a lot of things. I like how um, even when they get in the elevator, how it doesn't shut properly, and then he kind of has to force it shut, and you just sort of like, and then I like that they sort of, when she looks at I think it says like 8-person capacity, and obviously there's probably like 12 or 13 people in there, so they're already going over capacity, going up the lift. Like it's reminiscent. If anyone's listening to like Justin and I, and Cooper, you may have been to
I was going to say that's
Centrepoint Tower or Sydney Tower. That's literally what it is. You touched on like the glass breaking. I really like how when it was building up, that song was like, "You make me want to shout," and it was getting like intense, and there was like a lot of cutscenes there. That was really cool. Like the lady on fire. Apparently, I read that she was one of the oldest
72
actors.
years old.
Yeah, it said something. I don't know in the franchise or if it was saying the film. I think it might have said franchise. Yeah, I just think the build up in that scene, like it is scary because you think even like Sydney Tower, you would be pretty much in the same position. Like you have a lift or you have stairs to get back down. Like it's pretty scary. And I think they did a good job. And it was quite pretty, like just the cinematography. And I thought it was nice and definitely a step up from the bridge, definitely a step up from the track. So I think at least like a top 4 opener for me.
Nice. And Coop, what are your thoughts on the opening premonition?
I agree. Yeah, beautifully shot. The tension, as BP mentioned, with the song, with like when it's going quiet and then when it's building up again, was really good and really just kept you sort of locked into, oh shit, what's going to happen next? It's just getting worse and worse and worse. The only issue I had with it was I was like, how is a tiny bit of a chandelier going to crack glass when there's a bunch of people dancing in high heels on there? Why is that not the thing that's making it? That seems a little bit odd to me. But again, nitpicking. Yeah, really good way to open up the film, get you involved with the story. Definitely one of my favorite sort of opening disasters in these movies. I reckon they just kind of went balls to the wall with it. And there was just sort of those little bits of comedy with like the kid as well, just like the little shit of just like, oh, this is all your fucking fault. And then gets the piano dropped on him, and like I audibly like went whoa when the man gets fucking split in half by the elevator. I was just like, oh Jesus, all right, they're properly going for it. Yeah, very full on. So it instantly sort of had me in the moment, excited for the rest of the movie. Like, here we go. So I really enjoyed it.
Nice. I do want to touch base on one thing you just said too, the glass floor. So I haven't come across any other structure that has a completely glass floor, like especially with the Skyrise Tower. But even then, and again, this is a suspension of disbelief when you have to watch a Final Destination movie, but I reckon there would have been a lot more people who would have been afraid to like even walk on a glass floor looking down. Because I see people that like when we go to like Centrepoint Tower or whatever, and there's a lot of people afraid of heights to the point where they will not go up, or if they do go up, they'll cling to the wall or things like that. And even when they're dancing on the floor, I'm like, really? Nobody else noticed that the floor was cracking underneath them? I get not hearing it, but surely someone would have looked down and been like, holy shit, like... What I really liked about Bloodlines is that it does create a unique dynamic for the franchise in that this isn't just a weird mishmash of teenagers or college students or like colleagues that have survived a tragedy together. The whole family aspect just really brought that extra drama. And we've got that whole thing with like Darlene and how she essentially abandoned her family. But I think keeping it to just a family was really, really smart on this end because you do understand why these people would stick together. Whereas some of the previous entries, it's like, why would they all stick together afterwards? Like, I don't want to see them ever again. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, like that aspect. The narrative, I think, look, we'll talk about it in least favorite parts. That final act was completely unforgivable, like BP said. I audibly rolled my eyes, but yeah. Otherwise, I did really think that the death sequences, most of them were pretty good. I just have a few dislikes for some of them. Mostly because I thought probably the best death scene in this was not the MRI sequence like everyone else is saying. My favorite death sequence was actually the garbage truck and the lead up to it. Because the garbage truck death sequence was already gruesome enough as it was, with how she gets like weirdly decapitated and loses her arm and shit. That was a visual thing where I was like, oh my god. But leading up to it, it's the whole meta fake out where they're making fun of these Final Destination characters and the fans who are like, look, there's a clue and this is a sign or whatever. And talking about the tree cutter and the soccer ball and the winch to the face and everything. And that's how the character of Julia dies, where she gets hit in the head with a soccer ball and falls into the garbage bin. I thought, I didn't think they were going to do that. I thought they were just making fun in like a better aspect. I didn't actually see that coming because I didn't know about the garbage truck death. So I thought that was interesting. And then there's a lot of other death scenes and fake outs with like the tattoo parlor. I mean, I saw that in the trailer. I knew that was going to be a fake out potentially. The MRI machine, I mean, it looked painful. I'll say that with all the piercings. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting premise, but I think I probably would have preferred the tattoo parlor just because that seemed better suited to the character, which I know doesn't mean shit in reality. But yeah, now Coop, I'll ask you first. What were some of the death sequences that you liked?
As I've already mentioned, in the opening disaster with the elevator, that's really fucking intense. I like the suspense of in that scene as well, where they're hanging off on the glass, and then the coin, just that added weight of the coin forces the piano to then fall onto the people and knock them all off. I thought that was really good. Absolutely love the garbage truck scene. That was just comedy gold, I thought. It was already funny where she was kind of just like following him around, like, what are you doing now? Don't touch that truck. Like it was just like almost like a almost buddy cop fucking comedy at that point. And I knew when Julia like walked away after nothing happened with the truck with Eric, I knew something was going to happen, but the fact that they did exactly what she said with the soccer ball to the head when she falls into the truck was just perfect. And of course, the end result was incredibly gruesome. I agree and I disagree with the MRI scene. I really liked it because they just sort of kept adding sort of like levels to it. Like I didn't even think about the piercings, and then when more and more piercings on various parts of his body get revealed to be getting sucked into this thing, I was just like, oh, this is just getting fucking intense. But I did think that like the end result of like the spring from the vending machine to the head was kind of like, after all that was kind of like bit of a letdown. I do like all, even though nobody dies in the scene, I did like all the fake outs with the tattoo parlor scene, and it's just funny to think that that wasn't death, that was just incredible bad luck. And again, I reckon that's another sort of added comedic effect for the movie. Interestingly enough, I didn't, as stupid as it was, I didn't mind the ending scene. I honestly didn't mind it at all. Because I was like, oh, well, the train, okay, cool. But just the fact that then like a log truck crashes into it, just to be like, hey, do you remember the log truck? It's just, oh, we remember the log truck. Couldn't be any more clear with that. But garbage truck is, definitely.
Did you say clear, as in clear rivers?
Any more bloody clear rivers, mate. Garbage truck was probably my favorite, just because it was just so perfectly executed, I thought. So
Yeah. To your point as well about the vending machine with the spring death going
Mm.
into, I forget his character's name, but his head. I will say I will give it points for the fact that the spring was still spinning because it's got the
Yeah.
magnetization with the MRI machine. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And I don't know if it was purposely done, but it seemed like a callback to Final Destination 2. Again, another Final Destination 2 reference with the character of Kat, how she gets the pipe through her head.
Mhm.
I was like, is that what they're going for? Because there are a lot of
Mm.
death scenes in this which kind of harken back to previous installments. But maybe I'm just overthinking the whole thing. BP, what do you think about some of the death sequences? Did you have any favorites?
I actually didn't mind the tattoo scene. I kind of am annoyed that Final Destination used that as a preview trailer because I think when I went into it, I remember thinking there's no way this whole scene is going to be done in the movie in 2 minutes like the trailer. And
Hmm.
so when it played out in the movie, I actually appreciated the trap even more because there's a lot of stuff that obviously wasn't in the trailer. And so I think it went for, 4 or 5 minutes in total. And I
Hmm.
actually thought it was quite smart. And like it's interesting because I don't think in the trailer you see the outside shot of the building exploding at all. Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
alluded that he falls into the pit and then it does a weird sort of fade out and that's it. I'm like, oh, okay, so he obviously dies. So I really like the tattoo scene. As stupid as it kind of, oh, it hooked onto his nose. Like just fucking pull your nose ring out. But for some reason it didn't happen. Um, and then the MRI scene I thought was really cool. I did like that, like it was kind of cheesy, but I also appreciated like because he had the nose piercing that kind of went and I was like, oh shit, nipples. And then I was like, oh shit, he has one on his dick. So that
Yeah,
was cool. And it
yeah.
was kind of weird to see his like tattooed sort of torso kind of it was like bending outwards, if that makes sense, but into the MRI hole. Yeah, that whole scene was like, what the fuck? It actually was hilarious. I really liked that. I did like the trampoline scene, but I also have some issues with that one. I thought, yeah, I'll talk about that bad bit, but that wasn't a bad one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but and then the opening, the premonition with the elevator and the premonition itself. So yeah, pretty much those three.
Yeah. Nice. I want to talk about the clues in terms of something else that I liked about this movie because we don't actually see too many of them. Like, there's the part where you were talking about the trampoline scene, so the barbecue backyard. Something happens to the main character where a photo frame falls over it. It's like the same shape of glass that was
Mm.
poured into the cup and is now on the lawn.
Yeah.
I was like, I want more of that. And we seem to only get two sequences of that, which is that one, of course, and then the one we were just talking about before with the garbage truck, like her talking about don't go near the soccer ball and da da
Mm,
da
mm,
da.
mm,
That's how
mm.
the character of Julia actually died. I wanted more of that because we haven't really had that in previous, the last two installments.
Yeah.
Like Final Session 4, it was like a weird 3D, I don't know, premonition if you even want to call it that.
Yeah.
And then Final Session 3 obviously had the photographs, which are very debated upon as to whether they actually showcase the deaths or
Yeah.
not. Final Destination 5 didn't seem to have the. Actually, I don't remember, and I watched it the other day. Final
Yeah.
Destination 5, I don't remember there being explicit premonition scenes,
Mm.
but I remember there being small things like Olivia who gets a LASIK eye surgery. There's a photo frame that's smashed, and it's smashed directly where her eye is.
Yeah.
So there were little clues like that in previous movies. They weren't really in this one, so I was kind of waiting for more. And
Yep.
I've seen other people online say, "Oh, it's in the book that the grandma gives her, like the sign that
Mm,
falls
mm,
and
mm.
kills grandma in the movie." And it's like, yeah, but that was only one scene, so
Yep.
it can't really be explained for every death.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I wanted more of those. I thought they were great. I also like too that that trampoline scene where it looks like he's gonna like stab himself on the rake or whatever. The character of Darlene is like, hold on a minute,
Mm,
moves the rake. She's what causes her
Mhm.
brother to die
mm.
with the rake falling, hitting the lawnmower, all that shit, which is a very gruesome death scene, but also the glass through the foot. I was just like,
Mm.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. Do not want to see. But yeah, that's what I liked about it. What did you both think about like those type of clues? Coop, I'll start with you again.
I liked it. I agree. It would have been cool to sort of show that a little bit more, but I kind of liked that was sort of like lingering, like when she's reading the book, and then decides to go to the barbecue of like, you know, there's all these different ways they could die. Oh, they're at the barbecue. They got this. They got this. They got this. but yeah, it would be good if they explored that a little bit more. But at the same time, then you risk it sort of being overdone throughout the movie. So I
Yeah.
didn't mind it so much, maybe a little bit more, but
Mm.
otherwise, I didn't really mind. I really liked the part where Stephanie goes to see Iris.
Yeah.
And there's the thing with the lights burning
The rope.
the rope, and
Yeah.
she's like, fuck off, and then just like throws something at it. Like that was really funny. I was like, yeah, cool. She's been dealing with this for fucking 50
Yeah.
years. As soon as Death's making a move, she's onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just those little things like that. And as we mentioned, like the garbage truck scene, with the clues there that you don't really think are clues. You think she's just being extra paranoid, but then of course, soccer ball to the head. Here you go. So yeah.
Yeah. BP, what do you think?
I like the book element to it. I will talk in the bad parts, but I will just mention it here. I felt like there were some sort of Easter eggs and or other clues that weren't sort of acted on. And so watching it, I was like, is something going to happen from this? Am I interpreting this differently? And I think I may have, but it would be something to mention in sort of the bad parts because it kind of irked me because I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this, so something happening from this, but then nothing did. I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, I kind of hoped, there'd be a bit more with this, but it is what it is. I mean, it was a long movie as it is. We don't want to make it much longer.
Yeah, that's fair. So one clue which I forgot to mention was when he's at the vending machine, the spring does pop out. And so that kind of alludes to the fact that the spring's going to pop out and kill him. So that was another one for that one. I don't remember any clues for like the MRI machine or Darlene's death scenes or even the kids at the end with the log trucks. I mean, maybe the fact they break before that other log truck goes past. Maybe. Yeah, but it's crazy. So the last thing I want to talk about in terms of what I liked before I hand it over to you both is the character of Tony Todd, because as we all know, Tony Todd has passed, and his role in the Final Destination franchise has always been seen as, is he the personification of death, or is he a guardian angel, or is he supernatural in any aspect? And what I liked about this movie was that I felt that it answered the question that he's not supernatural, he's not death, he's not a guardian angel. He is someone that survived the original Premonition, if you like, with the Skyview Tower. So he's been obsessed with death ever since. That's why he knows how to help these people, because of the character of Iris. So even if you were to go back and watch Final Destination 1 and 2, number 5, listen to his voice in number 3, you would still be able to look at those movies and say, oh, he's just obsessed with death because he survived. It doesn't change his previous performances, which I really, really liked. It's also really sad to see him on screen because obviously he was, very unwell while filming the film, and you could really see that. So, really appreciate that he really stuck it out to, make a performance for this one. I was surprised by the fact that they just made it clear that he was, again, Clear Rivers, that he was, a normal person that just has an obsession with death and knows how to cheat death. But yeah, Coop, did you have any thoughts on Tony Todd?
Yeah, I really like the way that they humanized his character in this, and I thought that scene was quite moving. It was almost like a farewell. Like it was, I thought they shot that perfectly. It was and you could see that he was like, as we know, he passed away. He had stomach cancer, and you could tell he was obviously battling, and he probably knew maybe he didn't have that much time left. And the way that the dialogue was written in that scene and the way that he delivered it was almost like a farewell. And I thought it was, quite touching. And I thought it was a worthy tribute to an absolute fucking horror legend. So I really, really enjoyed that scene with him in it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. BP, what are your thoughts on Tony Todd?
I thought it was a really good sort of full circle moment for the franchise. we've done other franchises where things have come back and it may not have been executed as good. But I feel like this was really great. I really liked that he kind of just exited into a dark array of like just through a dark door and that was it. And then it just kind of shut. Like that was like a touching thing. But yeah, it was good. And it wasn't forced, I guess, in the plot that they would go see him and like that was going to happen. I think it just kind of came across naturally. And I think it was a nice touch. I think it helped elevate this film a little bit, in my opinion. I think if he wasn't in it at all, it would kind of maybe change my opinion a little bit on where this sort of film sits within the franchise. But I like that they got him back and like Coop said, sort of humanized him and actually made him a person rather than, I think, like in 3, you kind of fear him in a way because he's just creepily like at the funeral, just standing there. You know, you don't really know much about this guy. He's at the funeral, isn't he? Yeah, in 3.
Do you mean number 5?
Oh, 5. Sorry, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. You don't really know too much about him. It's just like death's around us or all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think it was a nice, if we want to call it cameo, what do we want to call it? I just think it was a nice final outing for him, and I think they wrapped it up really well.
I thought the acting was really good as well. I haven't seen Kaitlyn Santa Juana before, but I thought she did a really good job as Stephanie. I noticed as well, I thought he did a good job. It was very similar kind of character to what I've seen him play before, but Teo Briones, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, who played Charlie, he's actually in the first season of Chucky.
Yeah.
That's where I've seen him from.
Yeah, as we mentioned, I really like the family dynamic. I like the fact that in all previous films, it's mainly people that don't necessarily know each other that well, and that's where the tension comes in. But I thought it was a really smart element to have the fact that they have all known each other their entire lives, and that's also why they're not necessarily getting along.
Yeah.
I thought was really cool and nice new dynamic for this movie. I thought the story was quite clever. It's all very well shot. Color grading, Justin, very good. And yeah, like I mentioned, just kind of an overall positive experience. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Like I mentioned, that was quite moving. So I really appreciated that. And again, as silly as the ending was, I feel like it ended in kind of typical Final Destination style. That like I know they're horror movies, but they're also comedies, and I like that they lent into that throughout the movie as well. Yep. Garbage truck scene again, comedy gold. Hats off to that. Can't wait to watch that scene again. That's definitely up there for me. But overall, yeah, thumbs up. Enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice. BB, do you have any other positive things you want to say about Final Destination Bloodlines, or even just things you liked about the movie?
Yeah, one thing no one sort of mentioned, which is sort of a Final Destination DNA, is that it had that sort of dark mood and eeriness throughout, which they sort of, I think it was a little bit darker than 5, definitely darker than 4, perhaps not dark as 3, but kind of in the realm of 1 and 2 again, if that makes sense. So I'm glad that they kept that and didn't kind of make it lighter or change that DNA, because that's what makes the Final Destination movie, is that dark, broody sort of personality and that DNA. So I like that they did that. I'm just going to make a joke here, even though they weren't in it. I literally thought Jennifer Coolidge was the aunt. I think it's the aunt. And I literally thought Jamie Lee Curtis was at the end when the mum, it's at the RV at the cabin, and she's burnt on her face. I literally thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. So I appreciate those cameos in the film. But Jennifer Coolidge, she could have played that character. It was so funny. I was with my friend and I looked at her. I was like, "Is that Jennifer Coolidge?"
I'd love to see Jennifer Coolidge.
Hi, am I gonna die?
Oh no!
And then Jamie Lee Curtis, she'd be so good. She'd be like, "Guys, it's trauma.
The trauma.
Let's come
Evil
together.
dies tonight."
I had to abandon my children because I didn't want to give them trauma.
I think everything. I think we've wrapped everything else up really well. I think I think the opening scene. Kudos to that. I think the attention to detail. Just with everything, just upping the ante with the music, the stomping on the glass, just everything in that scene. And it was beautifully shot as well. Even though a lot of it was CGI in parts, but I still think they did a really good job with it. And sorry, Centerpoint Tower, but your I don't know, ticket sales will either go up or down. I'm not sure.
Now you can get away from it all. Come on up to Sydney Tower. The biggest spectacular in Sydney starts right here. But are you ready for this? Spectacular views. Wow, it's incredible. You've never seen Sydney like this. Sydney Tower, it's tops. Don't delay. Do it today. Take a friend. Take the family. But take the trip. Day or night, it's a powerful feeling. Sydney Tower, the view from the top. So come on up. It's open 7 days and nights.
Now, just to talk about dislikes, I do have, what have I got? 3 bullet points here. Not as many compared to what I thought I initially had. And then when I was writing it down, I was like, oh, actually, that's not really that bad if I think about it. But in terms of dislikes, I do have to talk about the bad CGI because there is bad CGI at times. Not like all throughout the movie, but, there's some odd parts where it's like, obviously, the garbage truck scene, we're not going to get a hyper realistic decapitation or like body squishing thing. Yeah. Obviously, that's going to look a little fake. But then there's some parts where the budget was used really well. Like the guy that gets folded into the MRI machine, that whole sequence was terrifying and it looked realistic to an extent. Yeah. But then there's some parts where I was like, oh, that looks too obviously fake. Mostly like the exterior shots of the Skyview Tower, or even just some of the other death scenes, I was like, I don't know. It takes me out of it a bit. But in saying that, I still think it's at least an improvement over the previous installments, like 4 and 5. But I would just want more practical effects. Like, number 5 has that really weird CGI moment where in the bridge premonition scene, the pole goes through his head and then his eye like droops down. It looks really fucking weird. Like there was none of that in this movie, thank God. But I don't know. I'm gonna talk about it. I have to talk about it. I want more practical effects like Final Destination 3 with the Ted in bed. That shit's horrifying. Like maybe something a bit more like that in this one. And there were some good parts too where I just felt that the CGI, obviously they would have had to have implemented it for some of the scenes. But there were some cool things too, like taking it back to the MRI machine with the magnetization. So you see things start to go whoosh to the machine itself or where it is in the room. Yeah. So it's like the doctor's card flying around, all the different tools and everything. I was like, that's cool. Like, I love that element. But yeah, just it's funny because like even in like the same 10-second scene, you might have a thing where it's like, wow, that's really good CGI. Then it's, oh, that's clearly fake. Like, yeah, that just, I do have to talk about that one point. But, yeah, otherwise, I'm going to talk about the ending. I'm sorry, Coop, I'm really going to go against you on this. I fucking hated that ending so badly. Mostly because I really liked where it was leading up to the point of the penny that had mysteriously reappeared from that old lady again, and then the train derailment. I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be the train that kills them or whatever. I was fully like waiting for that to happen. And then obviously the characters run away. They think they're safe. And then the 2 logs come and kill them. I was like, we get it. Final Destination 2. We fucking get it. We've already had the callback to the log truck. Yeah. Come on. Like, really? Logs again? Like, I'm not saying they had to be tanning beds or, I don't know, a race car or something, but or a plane, but I was waiting for them to die in a different manner, but maybe that's just, I don't know, what do you call it, like the negative Nelly in me that was just like, no more comedy. But I don't know. I just personally did not like the ending. And then, again, at the same time, I think we should point out that the train being derailed is also a callback to Final Destination 3, obviously, because that was the subway train that kills Wendy and the other 2. And I don't know, I was kind of hoping that like the brother and sister would survive because a lot of people say like, oh, everyone dies at the end of every Final Destination movie, but I mean, Clear Rivers and Devon Sawa survived Final Destination 1. There's Kimberly and the cop in number 2, and of course everyone else dies in 3, 4, and 5. So I was just like, could they go back to number 1 and 2 where at least one person survives? Like, come on, that's all I'm asking for. And I just have one other thing I'm going to get off my chest. I do not understand why they mentioned Kimberly from the second Final Destination if she's not going to show up in the movie. Like, it takes me back to like Final Destination 2, funnily enough, where they're like, oh, Devon Sawa got killed by a falling brick. Here's a photo.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk to me about it. Show me the fucking thing. Like, show me Kimberly taking over Bloodworth's job. Like, is there going to be a Final Destination 7 or Final Destination Bloodlines 2 where Kimberly is now the Bloodworth character because she's the only survivor now? Like, is that what they were setting up for? I don't know. Also, I'm trying to pinpoint specific scenes and I can't actually think of any outside of the revolving restaurant. Some of the color grading looked a bit muddy, but for the most part in the movie, I felt that it actually fit the scenes. Like, BP, you've got the tattoo parlor. Like, it was obviously a lot of neons and reds and everything. Felt that that was actually really nice. Likewise, I know everyone's go-to is let's apply a like 50s sepia beige tone, blah blah blah, to show that it's like an old decade. But what I really liked about the color grading for the premonition sequence is that at the start you've got them as a couple and she's got the blindfold on.
Peter, you can take off your blindfold now. We're almost there.
Not yet. I don't want to ruin my birthday surprise.
Then at least let me drive.
Lois, you know it's illegal for women to drive.
Peter, I don't think that... Peter, please, I'm begging you. Stop the car.
It looks nice and like old, what's the word I'm looking for? Like vintage, for lack of a better word. To differentiate between that and present day. But then some of the scenes felt like they didn't add enough contrast, or maybe they forgot to apply the same color grade filter used for other scenes. So I did notice some of that was lacking. But again, that's maybe nitpicky. And like in that too, the backyard barbecue scene I felt was probably the best looking scene out of everything because it was like that really nice green. It was like the ice looked white. Which, funnily enough, for a film is actually really hard because you can't usually get pure white in terms of digital video. Usually it's like a shade of blue white or a shade of green white. It's that whole thing just looked amazing. But that's my rant. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about why I disliked Bloodlines. Coop, would you like some time to talk about what you disliked?
Yes, I would. Thank you. So I've already touched on the glass falling off the chandelier. I thought that was a bit like, okay. Iris, when she goes to see Iris and after 50 years of essentially holding death back, she goes, well, seeing is believing, and kind of puts them all in Death's way. And it didn't really make sense to me that, like, okay, she's going to believe you now, but then they're all going to die. So you've kind of spent 50 years, doing that for no reason. When she first arrives at Iris's farm type thing, I was like, okay, so she's been safe for 50 years, but she lives in what looks to me like a fucking death trap. And so I'm kind of glad that it did come back to that later in the movie when they go back there, because literally as she was walking in, I was like, well, she could drown in that lake. Someone's going to get impaled by that. That's going to fall on somebody's head. Why is this the place that you're seeking refuge? So I thought that was, an odd choice. Also, I'd like to point out, if Iris is the only thing that stopped Tony Todd dying for 50 years, how did he get skipped? Because he would be the next person to die, but the cycle had already started again. People had started to die, and then he was still okay. And he's like, well, I've got cancer and it's, death's finally coming for me. It seemed odd that he conveniently had that reprieve of not being next, which I thought was, a choice. Iris's death I thought was pretty silly as well. Like I didn't think it looked very good. That was an example, as you mentioned, like kind of crappy CGI when the thing goes through her head. I thought that was, yeah, not one of the greater deaths in the movie. I reckon something else that's kind of like silly is when they're, going to the cabin. The mum's death was just kind of like, oh, and she's dead. Yeah, I thought that was a bit weird. And also throughout the movie, before they decide that, oh, we're going to try this flatlining thing, I was literally thinking, how come they're not going to that cabin? She lived there for like 50 years. And then it was like one of the last things they thought of. And then it happened. So I just thought, just from a logical standpoint, again, overthinking, nitpicking, but I thought that was a bit weird of a choice, that's like the last thing they thought of when someone successfully survived for 50 years, even though everything surrounding it is a literal fucking death trap. And the only thing I didn't like about the ending is, and I think we've seen it before, where like there's that realization of, oh, maybe we didn't actually beat death. Technically there was I just thought that was a bit too convenient, and then boom, then the coin comes into play. I did like the addition of the coin, because when that old lady picked it up at the hospital, I was like, that's coming back somehow. Like,
yeah.
And then as she's like buying lemonade or whatever the fuck she's doing at that stall, I was like, okay, where are they going with this? Is the coin haunted now? But then when the doctor dude was like, oh, well, technically she's not dead, that was all just a bit too convenient. And then boom, train, boom, log truck, dead, the end. Just that seemed a little bit too convenient. But again, I actually love the train and the log truck over the top, fucking like, double down stupidness of it. But just from a story aspect, I thought that was a bit kind of convenient. So those are some of the things that I was kind of nitpicking and getting annoyed with throughout the movie. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And to your point too about Darlene's death scene being too quick. So I know you didn't watch any of the trailers, but I think BP, I was talking to you about this possibly, or maybe one of our fans on Instagram. So in the trailer, they show what looks like her death scene, which doesn't actually appear in the final movie. And this trailer was only released like a month ago, so they would have had the movie already finished and everything up until then. So maybe they were doing a red herring, or just doing some bullshit Paranormal Activity 3 thing. Like, let's show the house on fire, but let's not put that into the movie. But in the Bloodlines trailer, she looks like, and it's a scene with the revolving door at the hospital. It looked like she gets stuck in it. And the author of Escaping Death, who I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, Padraic Maroney, what was supposed to happen was that she was supposed to get like squished into the revolving door or whatever, and it's supposed to like cut her head off or cut her heads off or something. And it's like a long-winded thing. But it didn't, for some reason, didn't make it into the final product of Bloodlines. Maybe it'll be a DVD or Blu-ray extra or something. But that was actually part of the original Final Destination 6 script, with the focus on first responders and EMT. So it's a wonder that it made it into this one, and it's in the trailer, but didn't make it to the final movie. And what I later found out was that they reshot the ending. So everything from when they drive to Iris's house was all reshot. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. BP, what were your thoughts? Do you have anything that you dislike about Bloodlines?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot. I don't think it'll impact my overall score, which is interesting because I feel like everyone listening and you guys will be like, I'll start off with the CGI. In the tower, there was a bit of like a panning shot of the elevator going up. I literally thought it was Willy Wonka. It wasn't that
I know
great.
what you mean. Yeah.
There was a scene where I forget who got it. Someone got blood on their face, and it looked like jelly blood. Like it was like a dark red. And then the elevator scene in the tower, the blood there kind of reminded me of Saw 3D, or the final chapter. It was quite pink. So the blood wasn't consistent. One thing that irked me that I think, Justin, you brought up about the color grading or a bit of the saturation. I found Tony Todd's scene in the cinema I was watching was quite dark, where he was kind of barely visible in that scene. I know it's a dark scene, and I don't know if it was my cinema, but I found he didn't really stick out really on top of the darkness around him. So I thought that scene should have been adjusted slightly to just brighten him up because he kind of blended in. And then I was thinking, like, is this a choice or is this a cinema issue? I'm not sure. One thing that really irked me, which I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about, was the log truck scene at the start where she pulls out in the RV and they're like, oh my God. And it went past and I rolled my eyes because I was like, fucking hell, are we going back to Final Destination 2? And there was another shot with the RV where it went over a bridge that looked like the bridge from number 5. And so I was thinking, I'm like, this is what I said earlier. I'm like, are we missing cues here? Am I not getting something? Am I meant to be like, oh, okay, so the bridge, the log truck. I'm like, so we're getting the roller coaster soon. Are we getting the plane? Like, I mean, in regards to those, they were kind of mentioned in the book with sound, which is kind of weird. What else? The backyard scene. I liked the setup to it. I just think the execution was way too fast and just it wasn't worth the payoff to me. Like, it was hilarious in the end. It just went really quick. And I know that's kind of a thing with Final Destination. When the things go into motion, it's within seconds. I just thought the whole payoff was kind of like, because it kind of started with the ice, the shattered glass in the ice, went into the cup, and then the rake, the trampoline, and the way they kind of did the promo posters as well kind of irks me for that, because they did like 4 or 5 for that scene. So it was kind of hyped up more than I think the actual payoff was. The garbage scene I didn't like, mainly because I've worked in the industry, and the thing that pissed me off is because it's called a hopper, is where she was in. Technically, in real terms, a driver would have a camera and should be checking when bins go in before just what he did, which was listening to Kelly Clarkson and driving forward. So that was kind of like me, like inaccurate, because I was just like, well, that wouldn't really happen. I know like drivers in the past that I worked with would just go forward and not look. They should, to see what's going in, just to make sure before they drive off. So yeah, in terms of the crushing, also kind of unrealistic because it needs to go to a certain level, and that certain level wasn't met in that truck. It sort of needs to hit the top before it kind of goes in like that. So that was just obviously a movie choice. What else did I have? That was that. The ending. Fucking shit. The thing that pissed me off was the fucking train just comes out of nowhere. In that scene, watch it. They were running right, and then the train stops, and they're just so casual in their conversation, like, "Oh, we avoided death." Like there was no like, "Oh my God, fucking hell, we just avoided the train." There was nothing of that. It was so casual, and then the fucking logs came down. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. I thought it was from like Donkey Kong Country Returns or something, like some speed coming down. That's what I literally thought it was. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. But I'm going to propose an alternative scene for that, because what I thought was going to happen was I thought they were going to get into the limo, and I thought the coin had somehow changed the track, that the crossing wouldn't register like a train coming. So the limousine would go across and then they would all get totaled by the train hitting them. That's what I thought was going to happen. And then the fucking train came out of nowhere, like just fucking Godzilla of trains. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. And then the logs, like, that's just so shit. I don't know why the promo as well had log trucks. I think it was in Tokyo. There was a truck driving around with Final Destination Bloodlines and then the logs. So I don't know if someone's got some sort of special interest in Final Destination 2. It's unforgivable that they did that and put the logs in. I don't know what happened there. Like, is it an issue with production and reshoots that something's gone wrong and something's mismatched? Because I just don't understand why the logs came back in. And then are we assuming this fucking log truck is driving around for days on end and it just happened to like hit this train like a day after and then hit these kids? That's what I sort of took it as. So, yeah, it just kind of, I think when it happened, I just really rolled my eyes and I went, are they fucking kidding me? Like, that's the ending.
Yeah.
And like we talked about the sinister ending, how the person like put their face up to the camera. I think this is like a worst like ending, to be honest. Like it's one of the worst endings I've seen in a film, let alone Final Destination. I would take the X-ray scene out of the Final Destination over the fucking logs any day.
Yeah,
I know, Coop.
me too.
And I
Actually,
know there was budget issues in the Final Destination, hence why they probably did X-ray. But I mean, it is lame, but it's just, are we fucking what? Logs fucking came out of nowhere, or they came off a fucking train, right?
Logs
Like,
are coming to get you.
and
Yeah,
this is the thing. Like, sorry, I'm going into it right now.
that's right.
I'm just like, I don't understand, like, why we had to have Final Destination 2 logs come back into the sixth film. Yeah, like it just did not make sense.
I guess
It was
it's
just,
meme. I don't know if you guys have seen, like, the last couple of years, I've seen it heaps of like the log
Yeah.
truck meme of
Yeah.
like, oh, we've got all this trauma like 20 years later, and I think they wanted to sort of play on like that being kind of like hip and something that people will always remember.
but I feel
think,
like, yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I only really just thought about this then, as far as like it being pretty stupid, is like, because I assumed what happened was the train got derailed, and then like a semi with the logs hit it, and then the logs came off and killed them. Why would a big semi trailer with logs on it be in a residential street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's again overthinking, but like, yeah.
Straight away I thought of Scream 5 when Billy Loomis came back, pardon me, as green screen, and I thought, like, we all have opinions on that. And I just feel like that was done in a better execution despite the awful green screen. And then I feel like even in Saw, when the reverse bear trap comes back in like every iteration, I just feel like they did a better job at bringing back something from the past, and just seeing like 2-3 logs fucking come out of nowhere, out of oblivion, and get these people. I don't know. I just think they should have. It's like they don't want to forget number 2, so they got to bring it back in. I think they could have just kept it with the train, and that would have been a new identity for the franchise. Because it's like, are we going to expect 7, 8 like roller coasters to roll in, or fucking bridges to like, or like Centerpoint Tower to like come in the background?
Yeah. I'll
Anyway,
say
that's my rant. That's everything.
That is probably the best rant we've ever had on this podcast.
Yeah,
Like,
I enjoyed that.
Grinds my gears.
Yeah.
What I thought was that, at the end sequence where the train derails, all that stuff, they're running for their lives. It kind of reminded me of it's a Eddie movie with the tidal wave here, but just like the build-up of everything, I was like, oh, they're gonna get like crushed and demolished by all these things. And so I was like waiting for that to happen. And I was like, well, that's new. We haven't had that in an ending scene of a Final Destination.
Yeah.
And that, personally, I think the log truck could have just been relegated to that cameo where they almost hit it. So I was like, oh, that's a nice little throwback. That's how, marketing gets their things done. But I don't think they should have done like what's the word? I don't think they should have harkened back to anything else, because they already did the Final Destination plane sequence at the end of number 5. No one cares about number 4. Let's be real. So they're not going to do a racetrack, or I don't know, they get killed in a car wash in the limo or whatever. Like, I just thought they needed something new, and just to have the logs at the end. I'm sorry, no, absolutely not. But one thing I want to talk about very quickly is just the marketing aspect of this, because I obviously have a degree in marketing, but what I find is that nostalgia-based marketing is getting so tired now that everything is now appealing to what we enjoyed in our childhood, especially millennials, people between the ages of 25 to even 50 at this stage, that, and we saw this with a few other horror franchises where it harkens back to a specific moment in a horror movie that everyone knows or everyone was traumatized by. So I think I've seen the Tanny Bed scene like 55 times now in the past 2 weeks alone. And it'll be like part of Watch Mojo, or it'll be part of the Final Destination Instagram.
Yeah.
And I saw one, I shared it the other day too, where it was the most devastating, the most devastating death scenes from each Final Destination movie. So number 1 was, I think, the plane. Number 2 was the log truck. 3 was tanning bed. 4 was the escalator death scene. And it's like, all right, they're trying to make us like, hey, remember what terrified you about these movies? This is why you need to go see Bloodlines. So it feels like they're heavily reliant on that aspect rather than actually getting us excited for what the new movie could be.
Yeah.
That I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they do a Final Destination 7. It's like a whole family get burned alive in a tanning bed. So they're like, remember this? Like, it's just, it gets a little annoying now at times. Like, even, and this permeates, why am I talking so like fucking scholarly today? And this whole thing that goes throughout like every book, every TV show, every movie, every video game, for instance. We're now relying on 90s and 2000s nostalgia and everything now gets rebooted. Everything now has a sequel. Everything now has like that legacy character or whatever.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm kind of over it now. Like, I don't care if there's not a Saw 11. I don't care if there's no, I know I really kind of want to remember what you did last summer, but I'm having trouble remembering. Can you please help me? Like, like what the fuck? It's overkill at this stage.
It is.
Anyway.
And you don't even want to fuck with that Mac Daddy.
I wouldn't have minded more callbacks, partly enough as I just ranted about nostalgia marketing. But like, I wouldn't have minded just like little cameos, not from like people specifically who are in previous Final Destination movies, but like as you mentioned, when they drive over the bridge, I literally went, "Isn't that the bridge from number 5?" But it goes so quickly that you can't really register. And I mean, I don't know how they would necessarily do callbacks to the first 5 movies anyway, but then the other thing which I've been seeing on Reddit is this theory that because Iris's premonition takes place like 5 decades prior, are all the people who had premonitions in the previous Final Destination movies, are they descendants or are they part of the bloodlines of the people who were supposed to originally die? But they don't really go into it too much in Bloodlines, if at all, actually.
Yeah.
So, like, why does Iris know about all these planes and, like, the everything? Like, does she have a weekly Zoom call with Tony Todd and was like, "Ooh, tell me about the bitch that died today"? Like,
death to all of them.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's more sequels, given that they were so keen to have this as advanced screenings, which never happens for a movie unless they're absolutely positive that this will do really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually makes the most money out of all the Final Destinations. Maybe it'll reach the 4th, what the 4th movie took. I still don't understand how that movie got the most money. How? Like, even the trailer looks shit.
Thing you said in your recording about 3D. Remember 3D was charging a shitload for premium like tickets. So I think that's like even Saw 3D was like the best since like 4 or something. I'm like, how? Like it was
probably
the
just the markups.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I reckon this will do well as well because like it is at the end of the day it is like a fun cinema experience.
Yeah.
So like I see this doing well with like word of mouth or like, oh, if you like Final Destination, you know, go and check it out. So
yeah,
I reckon it'll be successful.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to talk about the 4DX. So I saw this screening in a 4DX environment, which I don't know if they have 4DX in America or Europe or whatever, but essentially it's just seats that are motion activated and there's immersion things like smoke, lights, water. So the seats, I've done 4DX for other movies like Saw X, Scream, and Rings of all bloody movies. This was the one where it was actually used quite effectively. So a lot of scenes where it's like the camera dips and moves, the seat would move up or down. I felt like I both got impregnated and had an abortion by the time I finished 4DX. The seats were so rocky and like I was like, holy shit, am I gonna like die on this? Like, it was more intense than like a normal like ride. And so I was like, okay. Then there was some water and smoke elements. Like when the blood splatters on Stephanie's face, they sprayed the water at you, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's worth the extra ticket money per se, but if you like that type of immersive shit, go ahead. But yeah, to me, it added to the movie as opposed to being like a distraction. And yes, it's gimmicky as hell, but cinemas have to do something to try and, you know, gain more seats. So I applaud them. But it also felt like this was designed with the 4DX experience in mind, so they were really careful with like what shots to use and making sure that it doesn't make the viewer too sick or like too nauseous. Whereas some other horror movies I've seen in 4DX, especially Scream, you can tell it was just an afterthought. The cinemas were like, "Oh, we can charge double the ticket money and we'll move the seats every now and then." But even when I saw Scream and saw it, the seats didn't move that much. Then like it was kind of shit. I was like, "This is what we paid for, really?" But yeah, very happy with that aspect of Final Destination, and we got to talk about a death scene which didn't make it into the movie. So this was one we spoke about on episode 5, where we covered Final Destination 5. I've got a friend who lives in Los Angeles, claims to have heard about a specific death scene that was going to happen. And I can't remember the specific name of it, but it was supposed to harken back to the Final Destination 3 tanning bed scene, where instead of it being tanning, they were supposed to go to an infrared sauna. And that the whole thing was supposed to be that it was either supposed to be 2 girls or 1 girl and 1 guy who was supposed to be a couple would go to this infrared sauna. And I'll be honest, I haven't been to an infrared sauna.
We're going to the tanning salon after this. Amir's so totally cool if you want to come with. Totally. And just like talk if you want. Here's my cell. I already have your number.
It doesn't actually get hot. It's just lights. Like, that's the whole aspect of it. And then you do have ones that do increase the temperature, but it's not like fucking burning alive or any of that shit. But it was never explained how the deaths were supposed to occur. And in the book Escaping Death, they talk about the original script for Final Destination 6. So the opening premonition scene was supposed to be an underground tunnel where people get crushed. All the death scenes were supposed to be related to crushing. And there was no mention of an infrared sauna. There was no mention of, like, harking back to Final Destination 3. It was mostly planned to be relevant to Final Destination 2. So I'm questioning whether the infrared sauna was just an idea or if it ever made it to any of the scripts, because Padraic Maroney doesn't talk about it and it's nowhere on Reddit. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I'm like, they could fit something modern day that, we could see someone like Stephanie or Julia, the characters, for instance, going to an infrared sauna because it's quite a new, like, this influencer on Instagram told me to do this. It could be something that could have been used. But yeah, that's about it. Likewise, the other death scenes were all quite new. The only one that was reused from the original EMT first responders script was the revolving door crushing Darlene, but then they didn't even use it in the end. So
I didn't need it. Use it, don't use it, it's yours.
I'd like to reiterate how much I fucking hate trailers because
yes,
I don't know. You probably got to see the same trailers as I did, BP, because you were also at Hoyts. But I feel like I've already seen Megan 2.0 now.
Oh my god, is this
what the fuck?
Yeah,
like that was like almost not the entire movie, but what else is there? Like, I know the whole premise. I know it's going to come down to a fucking showdown with like the new one and the old. Like, oh my god, like.
I think it's when they show like when they're physically injured in the face or something, so like, oh, okay, well, this is probably later in the movie. I think the same thing happened with Evil Dead Rise.
Right. Okay.
There was bits in that I was like, oh, okay, so the mum's clearly like fucking possessed. So like, open up now. I think that was like at the end of it or something. Like, as the
like what the at your cinema were they also heavily promoting the new Mission Impossible movie?
Yes. Mission Impossible came up, and I said to my friend, "We're gonna go see that." He's like, "No." I'm like, "Never."
No, fuck that. There's too many of those movies. And like, I kind of wish they did with Megan what they did with Mission Impossible, which is like they didn't show any scenes. They were just like, "This is coming. You know, it's going to be here in like a month." I would have preferred that treatment for Megan 2.0 because I feel like I've kind of had like heaps of it ruined for me now.
It's so weird. I stayed to the. I don't know. Did you guys stay to the end of Final Destination as well with the credits, or did you leave?
Yeah.
I stayed. I was thinking something would happen, but there was no opening title, which only was at the end. I noticed that I put on my story. There was no Bloodlines in the start, which interesting. It might be just the way they're doing it
Yeah.
Possibly. I considered to like by the end of the movie I was busting for the lose. So like I stayed for a bit. I stayed I think for like a couple of minutes at the credits and I was like, surely there's not gonna be what are they gonna have at the end?
that's what I
Fucking
thought.
clear rivers jumping out of a river? Like what? So I was just like, I'll hear about it from y'all if there's a post credit scene or I'll see something online. So I was just like, fuck it. Like let's get out of here.
So my friend and I were the last ones there, and the doors had shut to going out of the session, and then we went to it, and then he looked at me and I looked at him, and I'm like, "You open it first." Oh, nothing happened.
We actually thought we were in the wrong session because the way Event Cinemas in Parramatta is set up is so confusing. It's split across 4 different floors with all these escalators and shit in between, and so we walked in and I was like, I think this is it because this is the only 4DX thing. But it also had 4DX and then 1, 3, and 5. And so we walked past number 5. I was like, okay. And then we walked past number 3. And then there was no sign indicating 1 for where we were supposed to go. I was like, well, it's 5, 3, and 1, right? So that has to be correct. And then when I walked in, there were all these families with like children. And I was like, are we in the right cinema?
Like when Saw 6 came out instead of Minions and the kids were traumatized.
Yeah. I'm like, why are there children in here? I say as like my mom took us to see horror movies when I was a child.
Yeah.
But then it was the same whole thing with like we had all these ads that were very specific to Parramatta and Sydney. And it was like that thing in Family Guy where it's like, is this the actual movie or is it just like the fucking production company? Like Underwater Map Productions or Panting Man looking over shoulder. Like,
come on.
Yeah, like just start the movie already. But
yeah,
we had Mission Impossible. I can't remember any of the other movies. They didn't show anything horror related.
No.
I was expecting like Know What You Did Last Summer and even Sinners or something which is currently in.
We had 28 years later.
In my cinema, someone when the seatbelt snapped in the movie, someone to the left of me is like, "Oh shit!" that actually was hilarious. And then someone in front of me clapped when did they clap? It was at the start. It might have been with the garbage truck actually, but the people in front of me clapped.
I was kind of waiting for her to die.
Yeah.
Just being like, she's such a mean character. I bet she gets like a brutal death scene or whatever. And then it happened. I'm like, oh, that was almost too quick. Like, I wanted her to survive a little bit longer.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's good. I like that we kind of like we're one of the first countries that got to see it over America. It's always like a good thing when we fucking get something first for once.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I think New Zealand's ahead of us and Japan would be with us, but yeah, that's it.
The more I go to cinemas, and this is also for non-horror movies as well, the more I hate people and the more that I'm happy I live at home. Just even some of the, like there was that scene where what's his name with the piercings, he holds up a cup that says, "Let me see your kitties," or like, "I'm here for," whatever it says. And it's funny, but everyone in the cinema is like, "Ha ha ha! Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yes, we fucking saw it. Everyone has eyes. Like, it's not that fucking funny."
It's gotten to the point when I like book seats that I'm like, "Who's next to me?" And like when you like, I think in front of me there was 6 together, and I was like, oh, "Fuck me, they're going to be like teenagers or something," and they were fine. But it's just like, I've had so many shit experiences pretty much in any of them, not just Hoyts. And it's just, I don't know what it is these days. It's just like the etiquette. So it's like we then have to go see it on like the last day it's showing to like have no one rock up to actually watch it. Because it is frustrating. And like I said, why do you need to have a walking conversation?
Yeah.
When the movie's playing, like, shut the fuck up. Like you paid like $20. We all paid $20. Like just sit there and shut the fuck up. You don't need to talk.
Like aside from this one with the one girl that would not stop talking and everything, Five Nights at Freddy's is still the worst one to this day. But also, I'm showing my age because I did not know that's what the younger generation back in my day, like teenagers and everything now throw popcorn everywhere during fucking Minecraft and all this shit. And I'm like, we never did that as teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I remember going to see Paranormal Activity 1, 2, all of them at the cinema, and people would be loud and scream and laugh and everything, but it was a shared thing where it's like, okay, that happened, now you shut up.
Yeah.
Not let's throw ice cream at the cinema or whatever. Like, come on.
It's just like you have to go during the week or when it's finishing to fucking enjoy it. Sorry, Coop, you go.
I was just going to say, like, the only sort of like closest thing to like an interactive cinema experience that I've gone to was on Halloween one year, and they did a re-showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And that's fair enough. It's a classic. People are going to dress up and fucking dance.
Yeah.
I really want to go and see a screening of The Room.
Yes.
Throw spoons and fucking throw the football to each other. And fucking sounds like so much fun. But yeah, all this chicken jockey shit looks insane. Like fucking cinemas are, getting damaged and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting that there was one in Adelaide that actually had like a screening for it, where like the staff got involved and all that kind of thing. I reckon if something like that, I reckon that's smart to lean into it. To kind of ride the glory of that kind of shit, because it is such a meme, and people are probably gonna do it anyway. You might as well sort of set an environment where they can do it and maybe avoid some damages. Yeah.
And also charge extra for those tickets. Like there's like chicken jockey and all that shit. I'll personally never understand because I'm 32. Like my younger sister, she's 14. It said that at funnily enough at the cinema in Nambucca, that people were still throwing popcorn and people were like doing stupid shit like tipping drinks onto the seats and everything. That's like that Nambucca Cinema Centre is probably owned by I don't know, some old couple or like some struggling family who are probably freaking out thinking, how do we how do we combat the rise of streaming and people not coming to the cinema as often? Now they're faced with all these hefty cleaning bills and people are like, oh, who cares, they earn money. And it's like, even then it's still not right. Like,
exactly.
I feel for some of the owners. And then the whole interactive session, like there's numerous places in Sydney, I don't know about Melbourne or Brisbane too much, but there's a few cinemas in Sydney that do that exact thing where they have monthly screenings at the Room where you throw the spoons at the screen and everything. They do monthly Rocky Horror Picture Shows viewings. Even I haven't seen any for Minecraft or anything, but there's been some others where it'll be sing-along versions of Wicked or other movies because you've got just the most insufferable people who are like, I can't just enjoy this movie. I have to sing along to it too. And it's like, okay, go do that at a specialized screening. Don't ruin it for everyone else. Like,
I'm one of those people. I'm just old now where like people just annoy me in general, even though I do a job where I have to talk to people. But it's just like the movie experience has got me so like on edge and like anxiety that I'm just like, am I gonna like be able to watch this movie in full without being like annoyed by someone? So then it's like the other option is just to go gold class, but then it's like you probably still
you're not even you're not even safe in gold class. I had The Substance ruined. I had Joker. I paid fucking gold class for Joker 2. Got that ruined by people filming it with their phone with the flash on and talking and doing TikTok reactions. It's like, just fuck off. Please.
I don't know. It's just,
I think the thing that I find funny about like the chicken jockey thing is it's crazy to me that you could go and watch the Minecraft movie and the worst thing not be the fact that you've paid money to go and watch the Minecraft movie.
Or go to see Jack Black.
Exactly. Pay money to see Jack Black on the fucking big screen.
And it's nearly made $1 billion.
Jesus Christ. And it's all because of a meme. But
yes,
I mean, the same thing happened with not quite to the extent, and there wasn't like anything interactive about it, but Morbius, because of the whole it's Morbin time. Like they had a second run and like did heaps better than like the initial failed run of that movie, which is the power of the meme. Crazy.
No, it's insane. No wonder the Final Destination marketing team relied so heavily on the truck log scene.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just surprised personally that they didn't do anything regarding the tanning beds. Like it seems to be like in terms of like order of trauma, it's log trucks, tanning beds, plane crash.
It would have been good if
And
they just chucked them
yeah,
all in at the end, like just throw some shanty beds in with some logs.
the plane explodes and
Yeah.
the debris is like a whole bunch of teddy beds. They got recalled or something.
And then a horse just goes like cantering past with like the fucking
Yeah, and it all happens on a bridge.
yeah. And to make matters worse, as soon as the bridge collapses and everyone starts to drown, then the whole race car track comes along and kills everyone too.
Echo the dolphin comes by.
I did have a really good time at the movies, regardless of the final act. So I'm going to give this 7 out of 10. I think that this is a love letter to the franchise. I think that it's shot really well. You know, we've discussed the good points, the low points. BP's had his rant. But I still think, you know, this is a huge step up from the 4th and the 5th installments. So, yeah, very, very pleased. I'd be interested in a sequel. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
BP, what score do you give Final Destination Bloodlines?
Well, despite my rant and, you know, a 14-year absence from the franchise, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I think it was a good return to form. I think 5 may have stronger parts and weaker parts. I'd have to watch them back to back and just see. It's definitely not, it's not the worst anyway, for the Final Destination. Number 4 takes the cake for that. But yeah, apart from like what I said, like the ending was abysmal, some quirks here and there, some CGI issues, and some sort of ineffective throwbacks or executions, whatever they're trying to do there. I still think it was entertaining enough. A lot of the kill scenes were still hilarious for me anyway. Like some people might find shocking. But I had a good time, and I really recommend people to go and watch this in the cinema. I think this is a really good movie to go with mates or family or whoever you want to do. I think everyone will like it, and yeah, be curious to see where they go with this. I don't think it's necessarily a money over quality process. Unfortunately, I feel like it will be. So I think it's all right to put this to bed for a couple more years and come back. I don't think we need to be churning one out in a year. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Good entry for the franchise after a 14-year absence. I think they've done a fairly well job here.
Yeah, nice. And Coop, what do you give Final Destination Bloodlines?
I'm going to give it 8 soccer balls to the head. I really, really enjoyed it. Great cinema experience, good return to form. Feel like they upped the ante, particularly with the disaster sort of opening scene. Good use of comedy. Acting was great for the most part. Yeah, really happy with it. Again, I went in with pretty low expectations. Maybe that sort of affected my view of it. Maybe the fact that I didn't see much of the marketing or any of the trailers leading up to it, so I didn't really know what to expect. There wasn't scenes that I was like looking for or anything like that. I would recommend that people go and see it. It is a really good cinema experience. I went and saw it alone, but when my partner cue up the Limp Bizkit, when she gets back, she's on holiday at the moment, but when she gets back, I think we're going to go and see it, and I think it'll be fun to go and watch with someone. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they do next, if it's going to be like a follow-up to this or if it's just going to be Final Destination 7. Would be happy with a sequel. Equally, I'd probably be happy if maybe they left it at this. I thought this was a good way to end it, especially when you've got that really nice scene with Tony Todd in it as well. Yeah, 8 soccer balls to the head. Did enjoy it. Would recommend.
Nice. BB and Coop, just want to say thank you both so much for joining me today as we finally discuss Bloodlines. I can't believe it's been 14 years since the last installment. It's been 3 years since we covered all the Final Destination movies. Insane.
No, it was a great time. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to these other franchises coming back this year.
It's good to be back. Had a great time. So let's see how we go from here with some of the reboots and sequels we've got to look forward to in 2025.
Yeah. Although now I hope that I Know What You Did Last Summer is a shit movie, so we get more BP rants. Like, if it's a good movie, I'm going to be like, damn it.
Well, you know, the first one's going to be like, how the fuck did I know what I did 28 years ago or whatever? Like, that's going to be the question.
They approach Julie James, and she's like, what? And they're like, didn't you kill the fisherman like 28 years ago? And she's like, no, I whisper to ghosts now. Like, fuck off. I'm too busy doing 911.
When I saw that scene, I laughed because I was like, did she get lost in college and never left? Is that what happened? Because it looked like she got like, excuse me, and she turned around. She never left. Yeah.
What did you do last summer?
Check out our previous episodes. We've covered all the Final Destination movies. We also have an interview with young Kate Crystal Lowe, aka Ashlyn from the Tanning Bed scene. We also have interviewed Padraic Maroney, who is the author of Escaping Death. Let me bring it up. Ta-da! It's a really interesting, fascinating book. I'm up to Final Destination 5, and just even the behind the scenes, like, I don't want to spoil too much because people should go buy the book. Just incredible. Like, all these interviews he's done with over 50 cast and crew. I explain more in the podcast episode itself. We also have our first franchise episode, which is coming out, in which we cover Urban Legends, the trilogy. So the first Urban Legends movie, the piece of shit second one, and the Bloody Mary installment. So check that one out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that other jazz. And if you hated this episode,